So welcome everyone, wherever you're chiming in from. I see some people still joining us. Please feel free to use and utilize the Zoom chat during this webinar. Pop in any questions and stuff you have in there as we go, any comments, any thoughts. You can introduce yourself as you join in. Yeah, please do use that chat. In the meantime, so welcome. Today is all around circles. It's all around creating amazing content and engagement. This is definitely applicable outside of GeniusU as well, but we will be focusing through a GeniusU lens. I'm Kathleen Hamilton. Many of you already know me. I am the community manager and the product manager for GeniusU. And we're joined today by the super special Emily Milsom, who is awesome. She is originally from the UK, but she is right now in Bali. She's a digital nomad, much like myself. We travel and work from wherever we are. And Emily has actually, you've probably interacted with her work more than you know at this point. She has been writing the GeniusU newsletter for the past 2 months. The content has changed significantly from when we used to write it. You'll see it's quite a bit more engaging now since Emily started writing it. Emily is a social media and community building specialist. She's worked in marketing for over 10 years. She's done the whole agency thing. And she's also done the whole self-employed teaching others how to utilize social media in their businesses with measurable results. So Emily's really great in my experience working with her at actually setting tracking for like what we're measuring in terms of when we're posting things on social media, what are the kinds of results we're looking for. And right now she focuses on employee advocacy projects, content strategies, and also creating amazing communities. She believes content is the heart of all social media platforms, and that's what she's going to be sharing with you today. So it's going to be a super awesome content-filled call about content. So yes, please do make notes, pop questions in the chat as we go, and at the end of the hour, as we approach the end of the hour, we'll actually go through, and any questions and stuff that are in there, I'll be facilitating and getting Emily to answer those as well. So as those come up, do pop them in the chat. And yeah, I'm gonna let Emily kick it off and take you on the journey for the next hour. Emily, over to you.
Thanks, Kathleen, for a great introduction. Hi everyone today. So what I've created for you is a bit of a deck. So we're going to go through, and I'm just going to go through some principles. But one of the things is that we're doing this training for you, but we've also created some guidelines which tack on to these. So it's, if you don't quite get it today, we do have some guidelines that we'll be sending out after. This is just the start of us really trying to create more community and just create better circles. So I'm really grateful for your coming today and sharing your time. So I'm going to dive in and share my screen. So let me know you can see my screen okay?
Yeah, that looks good.
Perfect. So I'm going to dive into presenter mode. So welcome to Mentor Training, running an engaging and educational circle. We all know GeniusU is a...
Sorry about that.
You can see them.
Yeah, we can see your speaker notes covering the slides.
Let me see if I can get them up. Bear with me. Can you see them now?
Yes. This worked so well yesterday too.
It did work so well yesterday. I wonder what it's doing. Bear with us, everyone. 2 seconds.
Love a good bit of technical difficulty. It only happens once you actually start the webinar and it's recording too.
Of course.
It's the rule.
How about now?
Yes, still seeing them.
Okay. So let's go through, and I might have to refer to the notes at some point if I forget anything, but let's see how we get on with them, okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So running an engaging educational circle, you know, GeniusU has been created to create community, but it's also got an element of being educational. So we really need to focus on what we're adding into these circles and how we're engaging with the people in this. So what we're talking about today is 3 particular areas. We're going to go through circles, everything you need to know about how circles currently work today on GeniusU. Apologies if you know any of this before, but we really just wanted to give a grounding of what was there, and making sure that we're all on the same level and using all the parts of the circles to the best of their capabilities. Then we're going to move on to finding and posting, which is all about content. Where do you find it? How do you find great content? How do you make sure what you're sharing is appropriate? And how do you then share that content into your circles? And what kind of posts you do? What are the sort of details? So really going to hone in on that. And then we're going to finish up with some information about how to create good community and some ideas for creating engagements within that. So hopefully you'll go away full of new ideas about things that you could do within your circle. And then we're going to finish up with some Q&A. Hopefully, like Kathleen said, just throw any questions you have into the chat. Hopefully she can answer them if she's got any answers straight away. But we really also want to know if there's anything after this that you still want to know about that we can potentially create further training for you on. Okay, so what is a circle? Circle is a space on the GeniusU platform that has specifically been created outside of the micro degrees or anything else on there, that's all about creating community where users can share knowledge, news, and connect with the other GeniusU members, but specifically around topic or areas. You know, we've all seen other platforms, you know, on some platforms they're called groups, on other platforms, you know, different communities show themselves in different ways. But on our platform, on GeniusU, it's really about connecting over a topic area and then educating ourselves around that area. As you might have seen, there are a number of different types of circles on the platform. Today, we really wanted to focus on these 5 because these are the 5 that mentors specifically can create on the platform. And we think that you will be in charge of one of these types of circles. So these are the most relevant. Obviously, there are circles on there. So if you do want to know more about some of them, get in touch. But today, we'll just focus on these. So a Genius Circle. A Genius Circle is anything, is one of the passions, it's one of the profiles, it's any topic area that's specifically, that's around an idea or a thought. Even the 17 UN goals come under the Genius Circles. Then we have the city ones, which is to do with anyone that has set up a entrepreneur social group. And this is a city group that's specifically tied to a location in the world. So we get a little bit off the offline, onto the offline part of it, making those connections with real people. Then we have products. So this is anything that comes from anyone who has a company and is selling a product on the platform. So they get their own little circle to make sure that that space stays dedicated to those products. Events are created around anything that is happening within the GeniusU and beyond. So any other thing within our further network. So events can be created pre-launch to an event so people can get the right information, and post obviously any presentations or connections can be do within a group. And lastly, a community group is just any group that's created around a specific community. So it's less been used, but it is there as an option to be used. But I think most of you will probably be running either a Genius group or a city group. Kathleen, are there any questions around that need to be addressed at this point?
One point of clarification I'll make, which is that city circles right now go through like a verification process. So in order to become a city leader, you can apply to be a city leader. You'll be a city leader for like entrepreneur socials where you're running events every month. So that's kind of a specialized process. But if you are interested in leading a city and leading events every month, please do feel free to reach out to me and I will connect you with the events team who oversee that. But yeah, right now people can find city circles quite easily through GeniusU by just plugging in their location and they will be recommended their city circle. So it's definitely one of the more prominent circles on the platform right now as well.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. So why use a circle? Now, really it's about being able to connect people on a much deeper level around a specific topic area. We could all join a GeniusU community because we're all interested in entrepreneurship, we're all interested in maybe changing the world, making the world a better place, but we all have specific passions and interests, and when we create circles, we create smaller communities that have higher quality engagements, community and learning, because we can really dive deep into those topics. So use a circle to create a community around those topic areas and connect with the people that are going to help you grow. And it's also the people that are going to want to connect to you because they're interested in what you're passionate about. As a leader of a circle, it's the perfect place to find advocates that are excited about what you're excited about. So circle is also a great place for you to, connect to any micro degrees, events. There's a place to store all information around one topic area. Okay, so we're going to dive into a little bit more of the technical stuff. I won't go too deep. I just want to make sure that everybody is really getting the most out of the circles, and just all the technical stuff is ticked off. Okay, so first of all, every circle, so this is the view that you would see when you come to the circles page, and there's the listing of all the circles. So this is really prime real estate. So whenever a user is coming to GeniusU, they are going to see this list. Obviously, they're probably going to do some searches, maybe around if you are in charge of a particular location, like Kathleen said, they'll search for a place, and that's your circle will come up. If it's around a passion, that's also then going to come up. So what you're seeing here needs to be as clear and as enticing as possible for people to want to even join your group in the first place. So this is the first interaction you have with people that are joining your group. So it's really important that this is really accurate and enticing. You need to think about how your logo looks. So this needs to either be a logo of what, here is like matching the name of the profile. So this is a little bit more advanced. It could be that you want a picture of the passion that represents the passion a bit more, or a picture of you. It really depends, obviously, depending on the type of circle. But you really want it to be a clear image, high quality. I think the most important thing to mention here is that I saw in many circles, people were using the same banner image as logo. So we really need to make sure that these two differentiate. In the guidelines, there is information about what sizing that you need to have, and a bit more information about what type of logos and things like that. But really what I want to really emphasize is that this is your real estate. So use the banner behind the logo to showcase more about what your circle is about. Maybe it can match the theme of the month, which we'll go into later, but use this as a place that you can be more experimental with. As you can see, this banner has text on it. So it is a space where you could add extra information into it. So the logo probably would stay the same all the time, but you can actually play around a bit more with the banner. Last thing to really point out here is the bio, which is the description. You can see that this is a place where you need to capture their hearts and minds instantly, and they need to understand what the group is about instantaneously. So think about 2 to 3 sentences that really summarize what your group's about, why someone might want to join it, and what they might get from the group. So really use this as knowing that you only have a few seconds to capture their attention. Probably they might give you a little bit more on the GeniusU platform, but think about this as real estate. Okay. So once someone has gone past the initial stages, what is inside a circle? So you probably know all of these, but I really just want to go through them just to make sure that we all know. So within a circle, we all have multiple sections. So there are 10 that should display, and there can be some variations, but this is what you should see. We have the welcome page, which is something that you can set up within when you set up your circle, but I think you can go in and edit. And it's just what will welcome your members when they join the group. Now, this is probably an ideal place to have maybe a video if you've recorded something small, or an image or text that really just enhances that experience about what they will get from the... Can you still hear me? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Apologies. So the welcome page is where their first impression, a little bit more expanded on that first impression. Next is the discussions. Now, this is probably the thing that you've all seen when you're posting into the timeline. This is where all that content comes up. This is where the engagements is happening. This is where the real life of the circle exists. Next, you'll have any list of all the members, so you can really keep an eye on who's in your circle. It helps you be able to understand maybe the players that are people, the members in your circle that might be more active. You can really just see a whole list of them, and you can keep an eye on them better in there. Companies. This is if your circle is connected to your company or any companies in specific, so that will be highlighted at this point. Any events that are being run within your circle that can be added into that. Any micro degrees that you have created or connect to it. So in particular, this works for, say, the passion circles. They'll probably be connected to the passion micro degree. The next, which is quite an interesting bit, is the reviews. Now, the reviews are people's impressions on your circle. So this is a great place for people to come and see what they might experience from your circle. So if you don't have a review, you might want to think about reaching out to an active member in your circle and asking them to leave one, because this is a really strong indicator to any new members what kind of experience and whether your circle is worth joining. Lastly, last few things, your library. Now, you'll be sharing content all the time. You probably have a wealth of knowledge yourself, of information. Now, the library is a great place for you to be able to store those, record those bits of information for your circle, and that just adds more value to the circle for the user. So do make sure that the library is up to date and you update it regularly, is our advice. The world game. So this world game is more specific to the UN goals. So if you are aligned to one, this should show here. And lastly, if you do have any products that you are selling, there is a tab which you can't see here, but you can add a shop to a circle. I think they are specific circles. Kathleen, can you clarify?
Yeah, sure. So a couple points of clarification. For the world game, the way that that works, I think right now most of the circles have a world game section. Some circles may not. If you are an owner of a circle and you see there's not a world game section active, like Sue has just messaged in the chat, do let me know. That's a bug in our system. That's not your fault. So that's an area that should be in every circle. For both the welcome page and the product section of circles, those are things you activate yourself. So there won't automatically be a welcome page on your circle. You can build one within GeniusU. There's a welcome page builder that you can use that's basic HTML styling, or you can use your existing, if you have a web page, for example, there is like a resizer with a little bit of code. So you have to know how to go into the back end of your website, and you can add that resizer that allows it to fit within like the GeniusU frame. It won't affect your website itself. So your website should still show the way it is, but you can then actually use that page once it's resized and plug it into the settings of your circle, which will then show up as a welcome page in your circle. As for products, there is also a little tick box inside of the settings of your circle. So when you're setting a circle up, or if you go in to edit the settings, you should see a section that says activate product, activate web store in your circle. When you then go in to the product tab, you'll then see the option as the mentor of the circle to add products to your circle. So that's where actually when you add the products to your circle, you're also adding them to the GeniusU web store. So if at any point you plan on putting your products on GeniusU, you want to put like an offline product or an online product, whatever it is, you'll always do that through a circle. So yeah, make a note of that when you go through the settings of your circle. There is that little checkbox, and that's where you'll activate the store in your circle, where you'll then go in to create the products. So hope that made sense.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification. Always good to have that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we're moving on to a bit more of the content now. So finding and sharing great content. So circles really come to life when great content is shared. We all know that, we've been part of communities ourselves, and it's anything that sparks a conversation or teaches us something that we didn't know before. That's when we really start to feel like the group is giving us value to our lives. But how do we find that kind of content, and how are we sharing that into the group? So before we sort of talk specifically about finding the content, I always like to talk about the content ratio. Now, this is sort of a solid foundation whenever you're sharing on whether it's your personal social channels or into a community like this. As a manager, you need to be thinking about the user experience. Now, the ratio I tend to suggest is 4-1-1. Now, what that breaks down into, it means 4 third-party shares. So this is content that's outside of maybe your own brand, or probably even GeniusU, and that. So we're talking about really that's content that's coming from out there. Then 1, which is a personal blog or audio or YouTube video that you've created. So it is content that's coming from you, but it still can be but it can be a bit more about maybe your company and your knowledge and things like that. And the final one can be much more branded content. So this could be a micro degree that you want to be promoting, something that you're doing. So having that really good balance between the content. And within the circles, I think that works really well, especially as a leader. You don't want to be promoting too much of your own stuff, and you want to always be thinking about adding value. That is the number one thing when running a community like this. So you've got to find all this content, but where do you get it from? And how do you find good quality content? I think that is one of the biggest issues and time challenges that a lot of people who run communities have, which I'm sure a lot of you probably find as well. So with finding content, the goal really is to create targeted searches which almost allows this content to just come to you, fall into your lap, or fall into your inbox, I like to say. And really it's about finding content that aligns to your circle's purpose, because you could get content across a high level topic, but not all of it will be appropriate to your circle. We really want to create circles that are of that have content of high quality and really aligns with what your community learning goals are, so that your circle is the place to go about that topic. That's really what we want, and that we need to have content that matches that goal. So the first step that I teach people is about choosing appropriate keywords. So if you don't know what keywords are, they're basically what people search for in search engines. These are the words that bring up the content that they want. So you're going to use that to provide content to share into the circle. For example, for the Genius Mentor Circle, the keywords could be entrepreneurship, social media, community, sustainable development goals, and leadership, all areas that would find appropriate content for the GeniusU Mentor Circle. Now, what I would want you to do after this training is to choose a list of 5 to 10 to begin with. Now, these should come from your knowledge about the topic that your circle is about already. If you really struggle, just stick with 5. But I probably think you'll find 10 that should bring some results. And what you want to do is over time, you probably test out these keywords and you improve them as you realize that, oh, good content, appropriate content isn't coming from that keyword. But if I made it more specific, I'd probably get better content results. But you also might find you've gone too specific on some of your keywords and you need to dial it back so that you're a bit more broader about those things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to find content using those keywords. So the number one way that I always teach people how to use it is to create a Google alert. You may not have heard of these, but really what these do is that you can enter a keyword into a Google alert, and either every day or every week, the Google alert will search the whole internet for content around that keyword that you're looking for, and then they will send it to your inbox. Sounds great, doesn't it? So let me just show you quickly a live version of how it works. So all you have to do is go to google.com/alerts. A bit of a disclaimer, you do need to have a Google Gmail account, but you can set these up really easily, and you can just set it up just for this, or you can use your own. If you don't want to set up your own Google account, there is an alternative called Talkwalker, but information about that is in the guidelines. We're just going to focus on Google Alerts. They do work the same, so don't worry. And all you need to do is you bring your keyword. So I'm going to throw in social media. And what it will do is it will bring up an alert preview. So it will show you all the bits of content that have social media in the title or the text. So you look through, and I can see that there's some interesting articles, and I think I would probably want to get that. So what you would do, just before you create the alert, you want to show the options, because I personally wouldn't want to get this email every day. Once a week is probably more applicable. So that means that once a week, they'll do this search and it will come into your inbox. Normally, I tend to see the automatic so that you can get a variety of content, because that's what you want to be showing into your circles. We tend to use English as the predominant language in GeniusU, so we tend to use English, unless that's specific to your circle. Maybe that might change for city. It's really up to you. And then any region, because we obviously worldwide, and the best results, and it will send it to you. So then what you want to do is you want to create an alert, and that's it. You want to do that for every one of your keywords. And one of my top tips is, what you want to do is set up a filter for these alerts to go into a specific folder so they don't fill up your inbox. And then every time that you want to just dive into some content to share into your circle, you can just go to that folder in your inbox and really quickly search through the emails. It really does just save a lot of time. Okay, so that is one way of finding content. The second one is creating a Flipboard. Flipboard is just another way of content coming together that you can easily view and see. Setting up a Flipboard is super easy. You just sign up for an account. And what Flipboards work is kind of like your own little magazine around a topic area. So I created a sample one, which is around entrepreneurship. So that is the high level topic. And then what I did is I added a few smaller keywords, sort of community development within that, so that all the keywords that I add for this particular Flipboard, all the content will search the web and bring them all into this easy to view Flipboard. I'm going to show you a live version of that because it can be a little difficult to understand. So here's how it looks. I created one, but I want to show you how easy it is. All you do is you create what's your passion. So I'm going to say I love talking about technology, so I'm going to pick that. But like, it's a specific thing within technology that I like. So I like innovation, clean technology, because that works, and startups. So that will create me a Flipboard that brings in results around those topic areas specifically. So you might find that you need to pick a more broader term that matches your circle, but then you can find, you can search for your keywords within the personalized bit, really to tailor it. You can have multiple Flipboards depending on which topic areas you want. And then when you're looking for content, all you need to do is to select the Flipboard that you want, and then you can easily just scroll through. What's really nice about Flipboard versus Google Alerts and the email system is that this is really visual. So if you're a visual person, this is going to work much better for you. So you might find that an article that you like, Scottish, and you can just click into it. And what it will do is it will take you to, it's going to go probably a little bit, it will take you to the actual article. So Flipboard itself has an internal sort of sharing and creating system, but the way we want to use this for circles is just finding great content. So you'll go to the page and decide whether you want to share it or not, but it's a really great place to just find everything around a singular topic area. Okay. Another way of doing this, now this is a little bit more advanced than the other ways. The other two are really good, solid ways of getting that content in. But if you want to go a little bit further and have a bit more experience, especially with Twitter, this is another great way of finding real-time content and more thought leadership pieces from leader thinkers. So all you want to do is create a Twitter list. So if you set up an account, what you can do is you can navigate to, I'm going to show you a live version of this as well. What you can do is you can navigate to the left-hand side to the lists. And as you're going to see, I personally have quite a few. And it's really easy to set up a list. So you just click the little icon in the top box, and it allows you to create a list. So I'm going to say so GeniusU training members. Training. So, and then just add a little description. So this is for content to share for training. This is where you would probably put in, why are you creating this list? So for a lot of you, it could be sourcing content around this topic area. But the thing that I really want to point out is that when you do this, you want to click this and make it private, because this is not a list for other people to see. This is a list for you to come and find content, engaging content. Next, I would say skip this point. You don't want to add any members yet because you haven't done any of your searches. But as you can see, you then end with an empty list. And the task after that is to start searching around your keywords. So I'm going to search GeniusU, and so we find the GeniusU account. So that's probably someone. So once you've found someone that you think, oh, wow, they're sharing really great, interesting content, and they're going to be a great resource for me to find content to then to share into my circle, you can then click on the three double lists and press add and remove from lists. Simply click on the GeniusU training, save. And now when you visit the lists on the left-hand side, you can see that it's, bear with me, taking a little moment to join them. Just going to make sure that they went in there. So I don't know why it's not working, of course, you know, when you're demonstrating something, it doesn't quite work, but they should get in there once you've added them into the list. And then once you've built, you know, you can add people on a regular basis, you know, part of your weekly searches, add 1 or 2 people, and that should end up becoming quite a powerful resource for you. I won't go into any more detail about it right now as it's quite advanced, but if you do have any questions, please just reach out to me. Okay. So once you've found the content that you want, what do you do with it? So I'm just going to give you a really quick checklist to make sure that the content that you're sharing is really great. And it's just 3 things. First of all, check on the content page what ads there are. We all know that the advertisements are what make up the internet and how people make money, so that they're fine to have. But we need to make sure that if we're sharing any content, that there's no untoward ads or anything that we might not want to be associated with. If the content page you're sharing has more than 1 or 2 ads on the page, I would avoid sharing it. High quality content probably tends to have 1 to 2. That is a very arbitrary statement, but that is my recommendation. So just make sure that the content is suitable to be shared. Next, good writing. Is there spelling mistakes? Is there grammar errors? How good quality is the language, the writing that's being read? Because we want to make, as we always, we want to share high quality stuff into our circles to make sure that we're setting the standard for what other people share into the circle too. And lastly, I know we tend to sometimes share things without reading the whole article, but try to read as much as possible and make sure that what's in the post is sound ideas, and that you do agree with it. Or if you don't agree with it, you can say, I'm sharing this even though, and this is what, but I don't agree with it and here's why. Just make sure that it's useful knowledge. Okay, where to share. So we're moving on from, now you've got the content that you want to be sharing on a regular basis, setting up those processes so that it's as easy as possible. Where to share. And what we wanted to do in this training today is to be a bit more specific about sharing within the platform. We know it's a little bit confusing, but we want to make it as easy as possible for you to do it. Know that going into 2020, we're going to be making some improvements to GeniusU overall. But as it stands, this is how the platform should be used. So you have 2 ways of places to share. Now you have the post sharing option, which you're probably very used to seeing, and this appears in the circles or in the main timeline. But there's also a secondary option, which is articles, which has its own space. So we're going to go through both things and about why you want to share on the 2 different areas. So first of all, we'll go through how you share. So post sharing. This is the place to be sharing those third-party content that we talked about. And it's really simple. So you want to select the text post, which you'll see at the top of the timeline. And what you want to be doing when you're sharing an article that's third-party is you want to write 3 to 5 sentences about the content you share. Now, this is really something you should be doing every time you share something. Because really, if we just share into the platform with no context, we're really just adding to the noise of social media. We're not really adding value to the community that we're running. So these 5 sentences, I want you to think about what is it about this article that makes you want to share it? Are there any key facts or data within the article that you think really worth pulling out and highlighting to your audience? Sometimes you have to imagine that the audience won't click through. So think about how can you pull out in the shortest way possible the information that will teach them something in these few sentences. And lastly, as the knowledge expert, as the person running, as the mentor, this is a perfect place for you to demonstrate what you know and what you're passionate about. So add within this, this text that you're adding with your share, add your opinion, add your knowledge on it, teach people, make your circle a place that people are learning within, and that they're starting to see you as a trusted advisor because you know your stuff. Once you've posted that little blurb, then you need to post your URL link for the content, and you will see a URL preview of the website you are linking to. But the little trick for this now is as soon as the preview is visible, you can then actually delete the URL in the box post. This is because when you post it live, the system will automatically show a clickable link of the title of the post that you're sharing, and then a little blurb. So try not to repeat the top of the blurb of the article that you're sharing. And what this will do, this will create a really nice looking post. So once you've done all that, you click the post orange button, and you hopefully will get a really great looking post like this. This is just an example of a post that I put together recently. So I wrote a little bit about why I thought they might find it beneficial. As you can see, I posted the URL link, and you can see how the URL preview displayed. So this is really nice looking, and I think why it's important to have posts that are of a standard like this is because they're easier to engage with. When you're looking through a timeline, if things are confusing, if there's double links, if there's no text and pictures are all, that can really ruin the experience when you're going through the feed. And people don't have the longest attention span. If something's not easy to read, they're going to move on very quickly. So think about how your users, your circle members are experiencing the content that you're sharing. Now, there is a different area which is called sharing an article. Now, we understand that the language around this is a little confusing, so we just want to clarify. This area is more about sharing self-generated content. This is sharing your articles, possibly your LinkedIn blog posts. This is the videos that you've created, maybe the podcast. This is the place to add all that extra content into the platform rather than sharing an article that somebody else has created. This is about you adding value as a person, as a mentor into the platform. So what's really, so if you've posted your content somewhere else, the system's set up to really help you, because you can just post your article link into the top of the external URL, and that will actually self-populate the form for you. And then you have options to upload your audio or your video file if that's what you're uploading. And then it should add the text to your content. But if you're not doing an autofill, you can actually just copy and paste the text from your original file and paste it into the editor. A couple of things to think about is if you're posting from other platforms, make sure that it's displaying correctly. Sometimes platforms like Word can add extra sentences and stuff. So just have a good read through anytime you're adding an article, any content as an article into the platform. And then you can actually tag into different categories. So this is where you decide where your content needs to be seen. So if it's about a passion, then that will be for that circle. You can post into your circle, and then you can post into others as well. We do advise not to do too much multi-posting, because you might find that users will then see the same content across different circles, and it will really affect the experience because they'll think there's nothing fresh in these new circles. So my my top thing is always trying to be as unique as possible and making sure that each circle has its own content. Some best practice. Like I said, each circle is unique. Every article must have an image and a text going along with it. When sharing directly onto the timeline or articles, remember to tag them to the relevant circles, not lots and lots of circles. And remember, always allow the URL preview to show the article before deleting the link. A little bit of advice is that don't add to the social media noise. So the whole point of sharing is about adding quality, not quantity. So put a little bit of time if you can into these shares. Quality URL previews. Sometimes you might find the best post, but the URL preview just looks terrible. There's no picture coming through and there's no text. Currently, we're unable to edit these previews, but we are working on it. So if you find that a URL is bringing up a really bad looking preview, consider getting some highlights from the post and then adding an image instead. We are working to improve this, or just finding a different post to share. Remember, users are attracted to easy to understand and nice looking content. So that really is about making your circle as attractive as possible to the members. Okay, so we have talked about finding and sharing content, but how do we create community and engagement? So a great community is one where people connect to each other, they learn about the topic that they're interested in, and they learn to communicate well with each other. And as your job as a mentor and a leader of a circle is ideally to facilitate and make these things happen. So when running a circle, there are some top tips. So you really need to lead on all fronts. You need to be setting the best practice for the content that's being sharing, and you really need to be pushing people forward, like showing the direction of the circle. Each circle is unique, and obviously you might want to run it in your own way about the way that you connect well, but remember that you really need to show up. You also need to make sure the circle stays up to date. If someone's coming into a circle and they see that content hasn't been shared for a month or 2 months, they're just going to think, oh, nobody's here in this place. This isn't a place to come back to check to. It becomes irrelevant. So by sharing regular content, you're making sure that your members think, oh, there's a reason to check back in regularly. Running a circle is about quality interaction. So that's about engaging with the people in there. It's about creating connections between people. It's about establishing a tone of what kind of interactions you're having. So you might want to lead conversations and ask deep questions and demonstrate how other people could be interacting with others. And then just, really active with regular and appropriate content. So making sure the content is appropriate to the circle. So you're creating that really focused space for people to come and learn. But when you have great content, it's about once you have the great content, it's time for you guys to have a bit of a strategy rather than just posting arbitrarily, I think. And here is some things to think about. So when you're thinking about creating your content strategy, these are my recommendations. So please feel free to play with them, but this is from what I've learned about creating an engaging community. So if you have maybe 1 to 50 members, you probably want to be posting maybe 3 times a week. And again, as it creates 50 to 200 members, you start posting 6 times a week. And as you can see, it grows over time. You might find that you have 25 members and you want to be posting, like 75 members, and 3 times a week is fine for that. But I really do think about that. The more people you have in there, the more content that can be consumed by the people and how regularly they'll be checking back in. Share your posts evenly over the week, trying different times to post. GeniusU is a global network. So we're going to have people from, just like we talked about at the beginning of the training, we have people in Australia, we have people in Indonesia, we have people in India itself, we have Europe, America. So trying out when you're posting and who's checking in, it might not be as specifically important because you have these focus networks and people, when they're coming in, they will check it. But do try and see if there's like different times that people are checking in and like they're engaging with your content at different times and what times they're online, because that will be really important for you to know when your community is active. A few things for community strategy for you to go away with. Why not welcome new members to the circle? You could do this on a as and when they join notice, or I would always suggest perhaps a weekly post welcoming new members. And when you do this, what you could do is you could actually ask them a question. You could say, welcome to the circle, please introduce yourself, what you're passionate about, what's your big question. Really just set the tone for like having them involved in conversation with others. As a leader of the group, one of the things you could be doing, and I would suggest doing, is help members to connect with others in the circle. As the leader, you should have this sort of third-eye view overview of the community, so you know who's in there. And if you start welcoming people, you can start understanding who's interested in what. And you might find that someone new comes into the community and says, oh, I'm interested in recycled plastics in Europe. And if you know somebody who's also interested in that, you can actively engage and connect those people to start a conversation. Communities come alive when the members talk and know and like each other outside of their connection to you as a leader of the community. So you want to facilitate as much as possible to make these connections between circle members happen. Which leads me to the last point, is about facilitating this creation of community, bringing people together. You'll be sharing this great content into the platform, but you want to be bringing the right people to it, commenting on it, and having those conversations. So I've got some ideas for you, because I know it can be a little challenging to, hear that kind of theory, but what could you do to facilitate community creation? So here are some of the ideas that I sort of came up with. So you could have a weekly discussion point. So on a particular day every week, you bring a question to the group about an area within your circle's topic or theme. And what you can do is that you can invite people within the group to answer and tag them and get people to engage from that point of view, and just have it as a regular thing that people can, and that's another place that people can start talking to each other. You can run a book club. If the whole platform's about learning, it could be that you could suggest a book that you've read, or you can even suggest one you've written if you have, or just something that's around, and that creates people all on the same learning journey. And then you can have potentially you could have the book club within the circle, or you could run a hangout and have people and record that and share into the circle. You could propose a world problem and ask for some out-of-the-box solutions and ideas for that, and get people really thinking about, this would work really well probably for the UN SDG circles if you're helping with that, or if there's a particular community area that you're interested in, you could get people's ideas. You could even phrase it as, if money was not a problem, how would you solve the malaria problem? That's just an example. You could host an educational quiz member. So on a weekly basis, you could ask a couple of questions and see people and give them multiple choice answers, really like testing their knowledge, but then also giving them the answers so that people learn more about it. Or you can just run like a monthly hangout for your members to get together and get to know each other, like a coffee morning. Everybody has a cup of coffee and you just talk about things around your circle area. Obviously, if you are a city one, you have your weekly, you have your meetups, so you can encourage people then to drop into the circle, ask them what they'd like to see, maybe encourage them to you can see if they're in book club, you can start that. So there's different options depending on the different types of circles, but they're really just a way of just getting people more involved from a community point of view on a regular basis. So think about, one of the last things I really wanted to talk about is your storytelling strategy. We can talk about finding great content and sharing it. We can talk about creating things for, we can talk about community creation ideas, but really remember that it's all about kind of telling a story. People relate best to other people through the use of storytelling, and hard, dry facts can be often hard to digest. and feel very disconnected from daily lives. So I want you to think more about sharing experiences, because that creates connection between people. When people learn from each other, when people can see themselves in other people's shoes, so to speak, it really that can really build a foundation for a community. And I had a few storytelling ideas for you as well. So get a circle member to share their top tips or advice or a short story to the community. So it doesn't always have to be you coming up with content. You can engage members in sharing their stories. So that's kind of on a smaller base. You could just get a top tip and then add your own 2 cents to it if you wanted. Or you could go a bit more in depth and have interview circle members. So you could run a little podcast, or you could just interview them and share it into the group. I know in another community that I know somebody runs, they have a set of 10 questions that they get people to answer, and then they craft that into a blog post, and it takes minimal effort. So if time is a concern, you can get information like that and then share it into the circle. You can have a member of the month, really highlighting someone that has engaged and given to the circle. Members that share lengthier articles or opinions, you could ask them to turn into a blog that they could then share. And lastly, you could have a theme for the month. So with things going on, you might find that there are events across the world or different topic areas you want to focus on. So you can just create a bit of change within the group. So it's not always the same every month, and you're telling a different story each time. And once you have a theme, you might then tie the content that you're sharing that month to that theme, and encouraging a circle member who has a business to talk, or if you have a business, to talk around that theme. So you can really start to create that unique experience. So lastly, some engagement strategies. Some of these might sound really simple, but they are really powerful. When people share things or involve themselves at all in the community, make sure to say thank you. I see some people do it already in the platform, but it doesn't hurt at all to just say thank you for sharing. But I also implore you to take a step further. Offer a comment as well. So acknowledge that you've read their post, what their share is, and take it a step further. Add a question about their opinion or about something within the content that they've shared. Within the circle itself, you can identify a common goal that everybody is working towards, so that you can all engage on a regular basis, like how, as GeniusU in a whole, we're working towards the world game, but it might be that within the circle that you guys want to raise a certain amount of impacts, or if you want to have a different goal outside of GeniusU that you can all work towards on a regular basis, and that creates that engagement. And then lastly, use people's names. I know it sounds so simple, but we humans really respond to people seeing us as unique and identifying us as a little bit special. So make sure to use their names when you're working with them. So thank you so much for your focused attention. I know it's been quite a long one. Thank you so much for being here. And I think there seem to be quite a few things in the chat, so I'm wondering if there are lots of questions. But thank you so much, and let's open the floor.
Yes, so in curating the questions, we have one question come up. We had a few questions come up about specifics on GeniusU, which I have answered the technical questions, I think, via chat. If anyone needs additional clarification, please feel free to drop that in the chat. But a good question came up from Esu, which was around, we're filling our communities and stuff like this in circles, but how do you increase the number of members in your circle? So what are some ideas around how you can use that community strategy to actually increase membership in your circle in the first place? I see you thinking.
Kathleen, what
do you hear that?
Is there off the top of my head? It's well, obviously, if you are running a business yourself, a mentorship, obviously one of the things I would immediately do is invite anybody that you're working with to the community itself from a sort of internal yourself point of view. But I think you can this is a difficult one for me because Kathleen, do you have any ideas while I think
yes, while you think on it? Yeah, definitely. I think what I would say as far as adding members to your circle, like I would avoid things like cold adding. So there is a function in your circle when you have a circle where you can like invite members to your circle. I would not just go through and invite people who don't know who you are and don't know what you do. That's not a good strategy. You'll get membership, but you will not get engagement. I think in order to build like a really meaningful, connected circle, obviously being super clear about the story you're telling, your goals. Like if you've already got a company, then you should be linking into the community you already have. And then to attract new members, it is about being a visible circle on the platform, being a visible mentor on the platform. So that might look like writing a micro degree. So having an actual course that is free, that is like a lead generator, that basically people who are interested in a certain type of information that you're offering can then take that micro degree. And there's always the option in micro degrees to add an endpoint, which automatically adds people to a circle afterwards. So that means that you'll have like a flow of people coming through into your circle who you know you've already kind of like tested them in some ways, right? They've gone through, they've taken the content, and now they're interested in being part of the community. The other ways are things like having an event that you can invite people to, or running a webinar that you can invite people to and invite people into the circle off the back of that. So if you're thinking about circle as your community, then your lead into your community is always going to be other things, right? So you're not just like cold inviting people to your circle because that's where the conversation's happening. You're actually even checking if someone's interested in that conversation in the first place by inviting them to like free content that is just added value. Another way would be something like a newsletter. Easy ways to get people into your circle if you're already working with them and you're like, how do I even get these people into GeniusU? What's even the value they can get out of this? I know some strategies that mentors are already using is using the assessments that we've built. So if you don't want to go in and build your own micro degree yet, you could be doing something like, inviting people to take the Genius test and join your circle off the back of it, or invite people to take the one of the like the wealth spectrum test where they can learn what level of wealth they're currently at, and give them then like personalized guidance on like how they can get to the next level, and then invite them into your circle, or invite them to an event and invite them to your circle. So there are other people's content you can use too to invite people in. That already is providing value, but for sure the way that you're ever growing a community is always just by having a story you're telling, having like a brand identity. I recommend you all take the orange to yellow micro degree on GeniusU. I'll pop that into the chat as well as a link, but that's all around like identifying your identity in the first place and getting super clear. This will tie into your keywords. This will tie into like what content you're putting in your circle in the first place. But if you know what your brand identity is and you know how you're trying to communicate that, that's going to attract people in as well, right? Who are looking for that kind of content. So that's what I would say there. We have had a couple of questions in here. Is there a recommended maximum number of shares to other relevant circles? So I think this will be in like the cross-posting and tagging category. What are your thoughts on that, Emily?
I personally think that 3 maximum. I don't mind same content being shared between different circles. What I always like to see is a different tidbit or a different fact or a different point of information in the post, you see. Because I think, of course, articles and anything that you create yourself could be applicable to multiple circles, but we need to explain why that they're appropriate for the different ones. So share into one circle with one post, and then create a unique post for another circle, and that should eliminate sort of that doubling effect. So they'll see that it's a different content and there's a different reason why it's in that circle.
Yeah, in a case in which you're like looking, this is perhaps another way to like grow your circle a little bit if you're at like the early stages, but you know that what you're doing is adding value, is like, I would even say if you made it a rule that you posted to 2 circles, and this is in an exception of this case would be if you yourself own multiple circles. So like you'll have seen on the post I made in GeniusU about this webinar, I tagged 2 circles. The circles were the Genius Entrepreneur Mastermind circle, because I know a lot of our active members are in there all the time. And the other one was the Entrepreneur Mentor circle, where this webinar actually belongs, right? Because it's training content. So in that case, like I've tagged 2 because I know that information is important to both. For you, if you're posting in your community circle, so say you have a brand that's focused around a particular thing, and you say, okay, well, this actually also is applicable to one of the purpose circles. So those are the ones that are based around the UN Global Goals. Then you might say, okay, I'm going to tag it with my circle, and then I'm going to tag it with like this other content circle that I don't own, but I know it's valuable to. And then people will see you and your brand as sort of an authority across both topics. The good thing about tagging is that people do only, technically, if they're scrolling through their stream, they only see the content once. But for sure, like if I'm going into multiple different circles and I just see the same post in all of those circles, I become desensitized to that content, right? So definitely be particular about where you're posting, and intentional about like, okay, is this really valuable to those people, and or do I need to frame it a different way to allow it to be valuable? Ooh, look, we got more questions coming in as we're talking about them. We are going to limit this to, I think, 2 more questions, and then I'll take the rest of the questions offline, especially if they're technical. One of the things, oh, awesome. So this is a good one that is technical. So, which is around like, if I invite people to my circle and they're not on GeniusU, will they join my circle? So a quick note about what that flow looks like right now is that if you invite someone, so if you are in your circle and you go, and on the right hand column you'll see like invite people to circle. Here, I'll share my screen real quick. You can invite people that are not currently on GeniusU. What will happen is, so over here you'll see I have invite, so I can invite people by email. That's in the members section. If I'm in the discussion section, I can also see on the right hand side a section to invite. If I invite someone, once it loads, if I invite someone down here, then what's going to happen is they're going to receive an email saying such and such on GeniusU, so Kathleen on GeniusU has invited you to join their circle, and it'll have the title of your circle in there. When someone clicks that, they'll be taken to the like login page or sign up page. So they are taken first to there, and then they go through the onboarding steps. There's 5 steps in onboarding that allows them to like pick their interests, pick their location and things like that. They will, as a part of that, see the circle that you've invited them to, and they can hit join straight away. And when they get out of the onboarding journey, they then land, I believe right now, on the stream. What we are working to do right now, which should be ready by like the end of next month, is direct them straight into your circle. So they would land in your circle, and then that would be the first thing that they see. But right now they land in like the stream, and then they have to navigate to your circle, which I know is complicated because it's not super easy to find those circles right now, unless you know to use the search bar. So we're improving that journey right now. But those people who come in to your circle, they do have the opportunity to join it right as they enter the onboarding. And they do become like tagged to you essentially as like someone you've invited to the platform. And yeah, when you, as far as like inviting people into the Genius test, Ross, I will send you a link to something where we have actually explained that, which was just sent out to a couple other members as well, where there is a flow specific to the Genius test as well. However, if you share from your affiliate links right now into the Genius test, it's just been improved so that it should take users straight to the Genius test where they can then sign up. So yes, those were some technical questions, but I think we have those answered. And thanks everyone for joining. That's okay, Ross. It's okay to have a long question. These are good questions to have. But there is, yeah, for sure, certain ways, certain links where you can share them, and they just are easier for people to follow the journey as well. But thanks everyone for your time. And thank you, Emily, so much for imparting all your wisdom. Emily has been working with me as well to look at like how we're improving circles, how to improve engagement on the platform generally, from the point of view of the user. And for sure, if you guys have like feedback on things that you want to see, or like elements where you think the journey could be improved, or where things are just a bit too complicated, shoot me a message inside of GeniusU. I'm super easy to find. Just search Kathleen Hamilton in the search bar. You can add Emily on GeniusU as well. That's Emily Milsom. And I'll post some links underneath the post in the Mentor Circle about this call, and this recording will be posted in the Entrepreneur Mentor Circle library, and we'll send out a link to all of you as well so that you can access it and any of the resources. And Emily has actually put together a super helpful guide off the back of the slides you saw today with like step-by-step, like what you need to be considering, how to do certain things. We'll be adding that to the Circle library and also sending it through in an email so that you can access it at any point. And a lot of these principles are appropriate across other social media channels too. So yeah, please do use them as you wish. Thank you so much for your time. You've been awesome to speak with, and it's so cool to see so many of you on here. So thank you. Thanks, Emily. Any parting words?
Just, everything that we're doing is we really want to just do better. So anything you have to say, we do want to hear. And we're looking to hopefully do some more training in the future. So just let us know topics, and I look forward to connecting with you all. So I just put my link in the chat. So if you want to befriend me, I'll see you online. Bye,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye, everyone.